It's Teacher Appreciation Week in Flower Bluff, and it's going to be also National Teacher Appreciation Day. What I want to do throughout this week is look at some teachers who have been unappreciative, meaning teachers who did the wrong things, meaning teachers doing what they're not supposed to be doing, looking back at some stories, and asking the question, what the hell were they thinking? This is part of the series I'm calling Unappreciated Teachers, meaning we don't appreciate them doing this. Now, before we get started, I want to let you know we are not throwing any teachers in under the bus from any school district or from any part of the school district. We are just simply giving you facts and common sense. In the case of this first story, this Florida teacher was fired over an inappropriate lesson. He says, I didn't do anything wrong. When clearly, just watch the story and figure out for yourself.
The action to terminate your employment is...
Psychology teacher Jeffrey Keene talks about being fired from Dr. Phillips High School.
When they said you have an option to resign without violating your contract, I said, I didn't do anything wrong. I said, if I did, tell me what it is. Oh, we can't do that. I said, well, in that case, since I don't know what I did wrong and you won't tell me, then you can go ahead and terminate me without cause.
So you're pretty much guessing right now
Right.
as to why.
Yeah.
Keene says there was going to be an active assailant drill in school and thought he could tie it into a psychology lesson. However, part of the lesson included having the students write.
So this is the active shooter on campus. Today we have an active shooter on campus. Write a reflection paper on your perception as you hear it happening. Today was your last day alive. Subsection A, write your own obituary. Additional writing. What is your perception, your thoughts on why the United States is having so many shootings? What kind of positive reactions can we as a collective group with a common cause to decrease the number of mass shootings? That's what's part of it.
Their own obituary.
If they were to die 24 hours from now, what would they do differently than they did yesterday? And that's to get rid of all the fluff and show them what's important in their world. It wasn't to say you're going to die and let's just stress you out.
However, he says a student asked to talk to a counselor after getting upset.
I put a disclaimer on the bottom of on the left one.
For your future, please realize we're discussing and addressing this topic, especially in psychology, that is in no way intended to upset either of you.
So this is in no way to upset you or anything else.
That happened during first period. During his second period class, he says a supervisor came to observe.
I said, who knows what they do if they're in the restroom where we have an active shooter? And no one knew. So I started explaining the correct process, and she shut me down on that.
Keene says he was just trying to teach the students how to stay safe.
I was stunned. I'm like, I'm talking to students about the world they live in, about gun safety and about, active shooters.
An Orange County School District spokesperson released a statement saying Dr. Phillips High School families were informed that a teacher gave an inappropriate assignment about school violence. Administration immediately investigated, and the probationary employee has been terminated. Do you regret doing the lesson?
No.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely.
And the district says they are not able to talk about details of this case. Meanwhile, Keene says he is appealing his termination. Reporting live outside Dr. Phillips High School, Valerie Boy, Fox 35 News.
Okay. Common sense alert. I say we were going to talk about unappreciated teachers, but this is going to the unappreciated administration. What the hell is wrong with you? He was doing the right thing. It's like a question, what would you do? But they took that as a matter of, you're doing this in an appropriate way. We don't even want you doing this. Just what the hell? It's psychology lesson. A psychologist would ask that question. I mean, the head psychologist wouldn't even ask that question. If I was a psychology teacher and they want me asking that question, I didn't want to do it anyway. But he said absolutely I wouldn't do it. He is trying to help the kids so that they can better understand the world we live in, to where there's no school shootings. None whatsoever. So I want to call him an unappreciated teacher. I would call him a teacher that did the right thing. That's on the appreciation list. I'm probably gonna have a board up here. Maybe it's a good wall for this. And I'm gonna have lists of teachers who've been appreciated and teachers who have been unappreciated. And he would go up, and this teacher right here, we'll go on the appreciation list because he was doing the right thing, but the school said it was wrong. Common sense would tell you he was doing the right thing. You don't have to fire him for doing the right thing. What all you want to do is teach without practically giving the approval, but who cares? Up next, this teacher was fired. More on the unappreciated teachers. This teacher was fired to use a racial slur in the classroom. Also, a teacher was fired for not hiding students' gender preferences. And looking back at a teacher that
board voted unanimously to fire.
And looking back at a teacher that called a student the N-word. And later, Ben Kolb, he died. He died after a mix-up of medication. But was the hospital to blame, and have other hospitals tried to do the same thing? A lesson from Ben. Stay with us. If you just joined us, this week's special is Unappreciated Teachers, where we look at teachers who are doing what they're not supposed to be doing. Like saying racial slurs, teaching something not supposed to be taught. In this next case in Las Vegas, this teacher was fired. He was fired for attempting to teach racial slurs to kids. What the heck? We talked about this where one teacher was fired for saying the N-word. Well, we'll get to that story. We'll get to two of those stories in just a minute. But take a look at this from the Young Turks.
A Las Vegas substitute teacher has been fired. Yeah, that's after allegedly writing the N-word, and not N-word, but the whole word, with the ER, on a whiteboard at a Vegas school. Now, students from Charles Silvestri Junior High School alerted their administrators about a male teacher wildly advocating for this lesson plan. Check out this tweet here. It reads, "They wildin' at that school," and you can clearly see there the racial epithet on the board. And so let's kind of go over what this guy was actually trying to quote unquote teach. So in a video taken during what was supposed to be an English class, the substitute teacher explained this to the students. Check this out. He said, "African features were said to resemble those of monkeys and apes. Either we can have a fun class today where we actually talk about English. I was planning on y'all being a bunch of little punks and misbehaving, and this class acting as detention. I don't know why all of you are making such a big deal when this word leaves most of your mouths every second." Wow, that's really special. It is. It's truly special. I love it when white people say things like that. Yeah, well, the Clark County School District didn't really love it. They acted pretty swiftly in nixing this substitute teacher. Took less than 24 hours, which is a good thing. And they also issued this statement. "I assure you that appropriate action will be taken against those responsible based on the outcome of the investigation. Additionally, I would like you to know that this will not be tolerated at our school or within the school district. We will not tolerate behaviors that contradict an inclusive community and impact the needs of our students." That's Yvette Tuppence, principal of the school. Now, 8 News, well, they did not identify the problematic substitute teacher's name because he wasn't charged with a crime. Gotta love that. But state records did seem to indicate that the guy, that he received his teaching license in January of this year. So I don't think this is a good start for him since he's only had this whole teaching thing for a few months. But apparently we do know that the way it goes in the school district is that substitute teachers are supposed to take over the lesson plan.
That's enough. That's enough. I'm not dedicating race to this. And speaking of race, I said to you that this was happened 6 months ago. 6 months ago in Chicago, a teacher was fired after calling a video calling a student the N-word. Where have we heard that before? Years ago, one teacher called a student the N-word. But what had happened was the teacher said, well, he used the word first. The student denies saying the word. The victim says, I never said the word in my life. But take a look at this clip, this minute and a half video, and you tell me whether that teacher was in the wrong.
Your best defense.
School board voted unanimously to fire that teacher, but the family of the student involved in that encounter says that action comes weeks too late.
I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and my heart is broken.
High emotion at this first Kankakee school board meeting since a teacher was caught on video allegedly calling a student a racial slur.
It's really hard to describe. I just can't, I'm just mentally shocked.
10th grader Michael Nelson was the student involved in the incident last Thursday in a classroom at Kankakee High School. He says he was called the N-word by his math teacher as he walked out of class following a verbal dispute.
There is absolutely utter disdain and horror at what occurred in that classroom.
There's absolutely nothing that any student can do to deserve having that word used against them.
The district said hours after the incident, the first-year teacher, identified as John Donovan, was placed on paid leave. And tonight, the school board voted unanimously to fire him.
Mr. Donovan has been terminated.
But Nelson and his family still demanding answers and say the teacher should have been removed from that class earlier because of another encounter with Nelson last month, during which he allegedly threw a book at him.
This is battery. He attacked him, and the school did nothing. The school did nothing to protect him.
Before the meeting, we attempted to reach that teacher for comment. Messages left for him were not returned.
Wow. Okay. Common sense alert. You never, ever call a student the N-word. That is racist, especially for us white people. We never, ever say the N-word. But if I did, and I'm not saying it, but if I came up to someone and I said, blanker, or blanca, they would beat the crap out of me. I'm not saying it because it's a racial slur and it's very offensive. I have never, ever said the N-word in my life. I never did, and I never will. But if I did, I'm not a racist. I was never a racist. I never will be a racist. But if I came up to that person and I said N-word, they'd beat the crap out of me. But teachers deserve an ass kicking. I would call this teacher unappreciative because he was saying a racial slur. Now, this goes back to years ago. Years ago, before this, a teacher was fired for saying the N-word. This was from years ago. Take a look.
It's a word that evokes many emotions in people. It's a derogatory racial remark that has divided people for many years.
And a Jefferson County high school teacher has now received the longest suspension on record for calling a student the N-word. WHAS 11's defender Renee Murphy investigates what happened and why in this story you'll only see on 11.
Valley Traditional High School is in the middle of a racial controversy right now. A teacher used the N-word towards a student. The word is only 6 letters long, but the impact is far-reaching. And we do want to warn you that some of the language in this story is strong, and it may offend you, it may offend some other people. But since this story is not just about the N-word, it's also about the teacher's intent and definition of the word, we have decided to leave it in the story for you to decide.
And what did he say specifically to you?
Sit down, nigga.
Keyshawn Chambers is a freshman at Valley High School, a Boy Scout, a football player, a member of the ROTC, an honor roll student. He was hanging around his teacher's classroom door in December. The teacher told him to sit down, and the teacher says that Keyshawn used the N-word first.
And I just kind of was stunned a second. Well, then get away from the door, nigga. And I repeated the same insult because that's sort of what I've been trained to do.
The school district says that is not what they trained English teacher Paul Dawson to do.
He tried to say I said it, and I didn't say it, and no one else in the class knows that I said it, because I didn't.
Documents from the school investigation show that several of the students interviewed from Valley did not hear Keyshawn say the N-word first. Dawson says that students use the slang version of the N-word at Valley High School all the time. He says N-I-G-G-E-R is a racial slur, but says that students use N-I-G-G-A as often as they say dude or hey man. And Dawson says as much as he does not like the word, he still used the slang version to feel more comfortable with black students.
Why is this word used so frequently? So I just don't understand it, and I'm trying to understand it. I need help. Yes, I use nigga. I've used it. I admit it. I put the H on it to emphasize it's nigga. You know, nigga this, nigga please, nigga. Can you lend a nigga a pencil?
What kind of example are you setting for your students if you use a word that you don't want them to use?
Upon reflection, that's not good.
Dawson was suspended for 10 days without pay from January 9th to January 23rd, and he has to go to diversity training. He says that he's learned from this experience and hopes that others think twice before using the N-word.
I will never say any form of nigga. I'm cured of that.
Paul Dawson says that he is sorry for the way things were handled, but Keyshawn says that he is not looking for any apologies.
Apologizing is going to change the fact that it happened and he's not been punished.
And punishment in your mind is?
Him not having his job anymore.
Paul Dawson says that he wants there to be a steadfast policy in Jefferson County Public Schools against people using the N-word. Right now, when it is brought up, it's dealt with on a case-by-case basis with the district. And we should mention that Keyshawn is still in Paul Dawson's classroom. Dawson has been with the district for 20 years, and Keyshawn is still in that classroom because Dawson is an honors English teacher. There are very few honors English classes, so he is still with him.
Well, now he was suspended for a while, but is he back teaching?
He is back teaching now, and he still does have his job. But this is not the first time that Paul Dawson has been suspended from Jefferson County Public Schools. Coming up at 5:30, we'll tell you what happened before. We'll tell you about his plan to appeal the suspension and why the district says that he should keep his job. Thank you very much. I'm sure we haven't heard the last of this. Oh, no, lots more to come. Thank you.
Now, where have we heard that from before? We heard it from this kid, this teacher. Does he go on the Appreciated Teachers list? Damn right he does. He's a racist. Well, he may be saying, well, he used the N-word with the H in it. It doesn't matter. You say the N-word, you are a racist. It's like you sing a few Jay-Z songs, and like if you say, you N-word, you sneaky N-word, you are a racist. You say N-word, you are a racist. You may say, well, you said the N-word, you're a racist. No. It's a quote-unquote N-word. If you say that, you are racist. These two teachers said it, they are racist. Last year, WGN News, teacher fired, N-word. This one said the N-word. Texas teacher 5 months ago. Racist comments. Probably the N-word. Baltimore City. Jeez Louise. What is going on with people who think that it's cool to say the N-word when it's not? Interesting. Let's look at the unappreciated teachers for tonight. Wednesday, we're going to look at more, especially we think of something there's lots of news articles about teachers being fired. I mean, that's all we can dig through here. Actually, we're going to look at one more in a moment, and a lesson from Ben. Stay with us. Here's something that we don't appreciate teachers doing. Having sex with students. We hear it a lot on the news. We hear it a lot. And our minds are saying, what the hell is wrong with these people? We pay these teachers to teach. We don't pay them to have sex with a 13-year-old, 14, 15, 16. That, in 50 states, that's statutory rape. Take the case of Jennifer Caswell. She had sex with a student, traveled a lot, and she resigned before she got fired. What the hell is going on with these teachers having sex? If this board right here would be extended, it would be extended to unappreciated teachers. That's what we don't appreciate these teachers doing, like this music teacher right here from almost a year ago who was charged after her husband, that's right, her husband reported her wife having sex with a student. Take a look.
Tonight, shocking allegations against another teacher at a local school, a music teacher charged with having an inappropriate relationship with a student. And that teacher replaced another music teacher 2 years ago who also allegedly had a relationship with a student.
Shelley Bortz is live with what she just learned about the investigation. Shelley.
Well, you're right. Olivia Orts replaced the music teacher here at Wilmington Area School District 2 years ago after he lost his job for alleged inappropriate relationships with several students. He's awaiting trial.
As soon as it was discovered, it was reported to Childline, it was reported to us.
Police were alerted to a possible romantic relationship between then choir director Olivia Orts and a 17-year-old student by the high school principal in April. The month-long investigation, police say, turned up a treasure trove of evidence to support the claim, including text messages, a love letter, and overnights here at Orts' home while her husband was out of town.
He believed that it was an adult male that she was having a relationship with. She told him it wasn't what he thought, what certainly turned out to be accurate, and she ended up admitting that the letter was from a female student.
On May 5th, police executed a search warrant on the Orts home and confiscated a cell phone and iPad. Police say the two continued to communicate and exchanged 100 messages during a 2-day period last week until they got caught.
The two of them exchanged over 100 surreptitious communications using a music app so nobody would discover it.
We went to Orts' parents' home in Hermitage where she is staying and knocked on the door. Her father greeted us. Is she home?
She's home, she's no comment.
Okay, would you like to make a comment, sir?
No.
Now, Orts is being charged with intercourse and sexual conduct with a school student, as well as unlawful contact with a minor. Now, she's due in court next week.
Common sense alert. What the hell is wrong with you? That, in any of the 50 states, is statutory rape. I don't care if you live in California, Idaho, Texas, New York, Pittsburgh, Colorado, Connecticut. Chicago, Michigan, I don't care. Any of the 50 states, every teacher that has sex with a student, that's statutory rape. In any of the 50 states. Now, y'all may agree with me or disagree with me, but that is the truth here. What the hell is wrong with these people? We see this every day. 5 years ago, this teacher was accused of having sex with a 14-year-old student. This happened here in Corpus. This teacher right here who lived in Corpus Christi, she was guilty of sleeping with a student, and she was now suing him. We're not playing that episode. How about this one, 11 years ago? This teacher leaves the family for a student, quits job, and drops out. The student drops out. What the hell is wrong with these people? Because these people don't care. How about this one?
And new on WLWT, a student teacher accused of engaging in sex acts with a junior high student. Now prosecutors say they have video evidence. Prosecutors say Anna Diattore met the teenage boy while student teaching at Liberty Junior High. Today in court, a judge set bond at $10,000 for a list of charges. Diattore was ordered to stay away from the victim and have no unsupervised contact with children. She is due back in court next month.
That's what she gets. That's what she gets. It's all over the news. And nobody gives her, and teachers don't get it. Teachers don't get it. That's the bottom line here. Next, this kid died after a mix-up at a hospital. But instead of fighting a family in court, this doctor apologized. John Hockenberry with a lesson from Ben. Stay with us. Every day, we rely on doctors not to make a single mistake. That's not the case you're about in this next story you're about to hear. You're about to meet a father who says his son died from a mix-up of medication. So if other hospitals done what this doctor did, you'll meet that doctor he says, I didn't want to find a family in court, so I'm going to go talk to him and apologize, saying, we made a terrible mistake. We killed this kid. Here's John Hockenberry with a lesson from Ben.
Do you know what your mommy's name is?
Tammy.
And what's daddy's name?
Tim.
Look at that big smile you have on your face. What's your name?
Ben.
Ben. And what's your last name?
Ben Cole.
Do you have any sisters or brothers?
I just got a sister.
And what's your sister's name?
Margaret.
Margaret.
He was a natural born leader. Everyone wanted to be near him and to enjoy his company. He was that kind of a person.
Tim Kolb likes to talk about his son Ben, his little buddy with big things ahead of him.
There was definitely something a little special about him. He was projected to be well over 6 foot tall, blonde hair, extremely athletic. It was almost like he was too perfect. Too perfect. I just didn't know what to make of it. I felt so blessed to have a son like that.
Perfect, but for his ear problems.
Unfortunately.
Shoot, man! That's good job.
Like so many other kids, young Ben had a history of ear problems. He'd already had 2 operations as a toddler, and then 5 years ago he needed another one to remove a benign growth inside his ear, an operation that Tim Kolb was told by the doctors was routine.
And routine meant to you what back then?
Simple, short time in the operating room, very unobtrusive, those kinds of things.
In the morning, out by the afternoon.
Oh yes, definitely, yeah.
Did the idea of a mistake even enter the mind of this father of a 7-year-old?
You were aware that at times things would happen, but you would think that the percentage would be extremely low. That was just my assumption, that very little went wrong.
And that was your expectation when Ben went into the operating room?
Certainly.
Who thinks about mistakes when they're being wheeled into the operating room? The last thing you want to imagine about your own doctor is the mistakes he's made. Doctors don't make mistakes, we grow up thinking. They work miracles, right?
Unfortunately, the operating room and hospitals are relatively dangerous places.
Dr. George McLean is Deputy Chief of Anesthesia at Martin Memorial Hospital in Stuart, Florida, where Ben Kolb had his ear surgery.
People want to believe that doctors are perfect, right?
Yeah, I think the public and a lot of doctors want to believe that. Everybody wants to believe that everything is always going to be fine, and nobody wants to be the victim of something that's going to happen 1 in 10,000, 100,000, or a million. It's just denial that it's going to happen to you. When you get on an airplane, most people are expecting it to crash, but people do know that airplanes do crash.
Mommy, get your stocking.
Ben's surgery was scheduled 2 weeks before Christmas, but on the morning of the operation, Ben was particularly uneasy.
You have to hold it.
As my wife was getting ready to take him to the hospital, he came to me and says, "Dad, I don't want to go. I don't want to go get this operation." So I sat him on my lap before he left and told him that we loved him so much that we didn't want anything to happen to him. And those words still haunt me to this day, because
he
trusted
you.
Me. Yeah, I have never.
And you trusted
the doctor, yes. And I thought, as usual, everything would be fine. So.
Circle of trust.
Yeah.
At 10 a.m., Ben was wheeled into the operating room. Down the hall, his mother waited with an early Christmas present she'd brought along as a special treat. At 10:30, 20 minutes after an anesthesiologist had put Ben to sleep, his surgeon gave him a series of injections around his ear, the drug lidocaine, a local anesthetic. The actual ear surgery hadn't even begun at this point. But just 2 minutes later, Ben was in crisis.
I got called to the operating room because the child's vital signs were grossly abnormal, with very high blood pressure and very high heart rate.
Anesthesiologist George McLean, who hadn't been involved in Ben's surgery until that point, couldn't explain why he was having this severe a reaction to a lidocaine injection. But he knew he had to get Ben's vital signs under control fast. He gave Ben a series of drugs that within moments restored his heart rate and blood pressure back down toward normal.
Everything looked good, and the child looked really, all signs of return to normal. He looked very stable when we made the decision to continue.
Did you have a feeling that something wasn't quite right here, that you didn't have all the information?
Well, whenever you see something that you haven't seen before, or is outside the range of what you've seen, it makes you very concerned. And when I left the operating room, I went back and pulled out a couple textbooks just to make sure that my drug regimen I had used was the appropriate one.
But just moments later, Dr. McLean was summoned back to the OR. This time, Ben's vital signs had plunged below normal and had collapsed in a deadly free fall.
He was rapidly deteriorating. Pretty soon we lost what's called the EKG complex, and he just went flatline. And we did CPR, I think, was for about an hour and 40 minutes.
Crisis teams struggled furiously to save Ben, and after an agonizing effort, his heart was once again beating on its own. But Ben was comatose and on a ventilator. And when he was wheeled into intensive care, the cause of the crisis was still a mystery.
What did you think had happened?
Right away, you're worried about what happened, but you're more focused on doing the resuscitation. When you see something you've never seen in over 25, 30 years in the operating room, you don't know what's going on. And
it's a scary feeling.
It's very scary. It makes you feel very insecure very quickly.
Ben's mother, still waiting to see her son, simply couldn't believe what had happened in just 2.5 hours.
And the surgeon and I went and talked to the mother. I laid it out very seriously that he was currently in a coma and that there was a chance that he might not wake up. And the mother said, well, when can I give him his Christmas present? I bought him, well, I want to give him the present today. And I kept trying to tell her, well, he might not wake up. And she said, well, I know he's going to wake up. And I said, well, that's good, because everybody on TV wakes up.
Tim Kolb, who'd spent that morning reassuring his son, raced from his furniture workshop to the hospital.
I was brought into the intensive care unit where my son was hooked up to a ventilator. And people tried to give me some information, but it was all very vague. You might as well be standing on the moon. That's the way I felt.
But even from outer space, Tim says, he already knew for sure what no one else would say out loud.
I was informed that they were going to transfer him to another hospital, and I watched as they removed the ventilator to get him over onto a gurney. And when they removed that ventilator and I saw how he laid there and rolled over and his tongue hung out, the first impression that hit me was, I've seen this before, dead dogs on the side of the road. I knew there at that moment that my son was dead. Nobody had to tell me.
But it wasn't until the following day, after he'd been transferred to a larger hospital, that Ben Kolb was officially declared dead.
What did you and your wife do when you learned finally the news that you'd already suspected?
We went in and said goodbye to him one last time. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I was there with my wife, and we just stood over Ben and sobbed uncontrollably. I cried so hard it hurt, but I couldn't stop. It was a sad, sad thing to say goodbye to your only son. It was tough.
Now I have to open up my another present.
Ben's parents and older sister had planned to hear him sing in his school's holiday pageant. Instead, they listened to his eulogy, trying to find comfort and hoping for answers to the question no parent ever wants to ask.
Somebody messed up. Somebody had to make a mistake. Something's wrong somewhere.
To take a 7-year-old healthy little soccer playing, baseball playing child off the street and not return him to his parents is not the high point of your career.
Even though many in the community believed it was his mistake that had caused Ben's death, Dr. McLean attended Ben's funeral.
Why aggravate the situation by not being decent, kind, and supportive of the family? If I'm going to get sued and torn apart by a plaintiff's lawyer, I'm going to get sued and torn apart whether I was the world's nicest guy or the world's biggest toad. And I think about 3 nights later, I ended up going to the funeral and going up and reviewing with the family. And that was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done in my career. But it probably stands out as the thing I'm probably most proud of having done.
And what did you get from that moment of interaction with the family there at the funeral? What did you give?
I don't know what I gave. And I can't describe what I got.
But it's the most important thing of your career.
I think that, boy, still in trouble for these years.
As for Martin Memorial Hospital, until they figured out how Ben had died and why, the life of every other surgical patient in their hospital was potentially at risk. Would more patients have to die before they found out exactly what was wrong?
You know, you can imagine being in the same room as Ben, getting the same thing that he did. But the question still remains, what caused this little boy to just all of a sudden die? Well, remember, one of those was for the ear, so what caused it? When we return, we're gonna hear the cause of it, and the truth will come out as John Hockenberry continues a lesson from Ben. So from this little smile and to me, I say, stay with us. Before we continue with the lesson from Ben, Here's an update from Uvalde. Uvalde school shooter wrote LOL on the whiteboard in victim's blood. Lawmaker tells families at the emotional hearing. Families whose children were killed in a massacre in Uvalde, Texas heard the news after waiting all day to testify on governor's registration bill in a state house committee hearing. So what we know right now is the committee is considering a bill that would raise the age to purchase certain semi-automatic rifles from 18 to 21. It's legislation that the families and their supporters say is the most want passed in response to last year's mass shooting, but which has languished in the face of opposition from Republicans, led by Greg Abbott. But new developments are happening. The shooter wrote LOL on the whiteboard. We'll keep looking into this and give you future developments as it happens.
When we return, tests come back, telling hospital officials exactly what it was that went wrong during Ben Kolb's surgery.
How did you feel when those results came back?
Devastated. It was the worst thing that had ever happened.
What was to blame for a young boy's death? When a lesson from Ben continues.
Stay with us. Well, as you've seen, young Ben Kolb had died from a mystery illness or mystery mix-up. What was to blame and what was the cause of it? You're about to hear the results of the hospital's investigation as they determine what killed young Ben Kolb. Once again, here's John Hockenberry.
Ben, what kind of foods do you like to eat?
Pizza. Spaghetti.
Oh.
The anticipation of the future with me and my son was gone. There would be no future.
Tim Kolb wanted an explanation. Why did Ben, his healthy 7-year-old son, die during what was supposed to have been a routine ear operation?
You're handsome. How'd you get so handsome?
Mommy did it.
Mommy did it?
It's highly abnormal. It had never happened that a child had their heart stop in the operating room.
Donnie Haas, who's been a nurse for 40 years, was the risk manager at Martin Memorial Hospital. It was her job to help prevent injuries from happening and limit hospital loss if they did. She led the investigation to find the cause of Ben's mysterious death before any other patient suffered the same fate. The investigation quickly zeroed in on that drug lidocaine, a common local anesthetic that Ben had been given at the start of his operation.
I thought that somehow that product was bad. I didn't know how or why, right, something.
And something like a tainted batch of lidocaine could quickly become a national health crisis.
If we had a bad batch, it not only placed in jeopardy every other patient who was going to get that drug from us, but throughout the country, anyone who had that batch.
Donnie was ready for this type of crisis. She took the drug off the pharmacy shelves, gathered Ben's vial of lidocaine and the syringe used to inject it, and sent them to specialized laboratories for testing. But no one was ready for the shocking result. According to the labs, there was no lidocaine at all in the syringe. Instead, they found an entirely different drug.
How did you feel when those results came back?
Devastated. It was the worst thing that had ever happened.
The syringe that should have contained an anesthetic actually contained a highly concentrated stimulant, topical adrenaline, a drug to be used at a different point in Ben's operation.
My heart just sunk. I thought,
Because you knew that if there was ever a drug you didn't want to mix up
you don't want to mix up those two.
Lidocaine puts you down, adrenaline pumps you up. I mean, the opposite reactions.
Exactly.
The topical adrenaline was supposed to have been kept in a cup to be dabbed with cotton swabs onto the incision if needed. The powerful stimulant is only meant to be injected in emergency situations.
I reviewed, I think, every piece of literature that's been written. The child certainly received what the literature would classify as a lethal dose.
A lethal dose.
A lethal dose.
So how did two completely different drugs with such opposite effects get mixed up during surgery? The drug started out in vials like these, sealed and labeled at the factory, clear to everyone which is which. But once inside the OR, a nurse broke the seals, transferred the drugs into 2 open, sterile cups sitting next to each other, a common practice in hospitals around the country. Lidocaine into this cup, adrenaline into this one. But if the adrenaline was poured into the wrong cup by accident, could anyone really be sure which drug was which?
Now, can you tell the difference between these 2 liquids?
They look like water. Once you take them out of their vials, they look like water.
It didn't matter what the labels on the cups said, because once the drugs were separated from their factory-sealed and certified containers, they became indistinguishable. They became an accident waiting to happen. So when another nurse filled Ben's unlabeled syringe with what was supposed to be the local anesthetic, the accident happened.
When you look at things with hindsight bias, it looks so simple. Why didn't we see this before? We didn't.
The hospital immediately changed its system in the operating room, eliminating the cups and filling syringes directly from the labeled vials instead. That simple error, pouring the right medication into the wrong container, was the worst medical mistake in the history of the hospital. The badly designed system in their operating room had allowed good people to do something terribly wrong. But nationwide, it is children, according to research, who are most at risk in hospitals. Children are actually 3 times more likely than adults to experience potentially harmful and completely preventable medication errors.
We knew for sure what had happened, and we knew that the error was ours.
But knowing their system was to blame for Ben's death, and facing the almost certain prospect of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, Martin Memorial made a remarkable decision. The hospital didn't punish or even blame anyone involved in the case.
At first blush, that might sound like a whitewash. Everyone off the hook. But the hospital decided that punishing doctors and nurses for the hospital's own flawed system would simply make it more difficult to find out about and to fix any other medical mistakes that might occur. Do people want to blame a person for a medical error rather than a system, a process, a procedure?
It's easier to blame a person, much easier, because you're done. You say, you made a mistake, we're done, okay?
Get rid of you, no more mistakes.
Wrong.
Wrong.
That's what, maybe we used to think that, and maybe some people still do, but that's really wrong because it wasn't the people. The people were good people. The system was wrong.
I mean, did you feel like you dodged a bullet in some way? That suddenly the fault wasn't on you in the same way?
I mean, you go from like, wait a minute, I'm off the hook, but we made a bad mistake. We killed this kid. And you're part of the team. And it didn't matter who did what to whom. That child died on your watch.
It's no consolation to Dr. McLean that he wasn't even called into the case until after the fatal drug mix-up and injection. You get the feeling no punishment could match the misery he already feels.
Everybody has their demons. And my demon is I don't know. I don't know whether I did all the right things or all the wrong things. I don't know if I did the right thing in the treatment.
You know, Doc, we've just skimmed the surface on this, but if I didn't know this happened 5 years ago, I'd think it was last week for you.
It stays with you. Sorry, it's
The hospital knew the truth about Ben's death, but the facts uncovered by its investigation were also the makings of a staggering lawsuit. What the hospital was about to do with that information is almost never done.
So, the question is, what would happen when the hospital, that's right, the hospital came forward and told the family of young Ben Kolb what had happened? When we come back, we're going to hear what the doctors had to say to this family and ask the question, have other hospitals done everything, changed everything ever since Ben Kolb died? John Huckenberry continues. Stay with us. Well, we're now out of time, but we're going to continue this on Wednesday. Now, the question is, what's going to happen when the doctors at the hospital come forward to the family saying what had happened and the other question, have other hospitals changed what had happened ever since the death? Here's a sneak peek.
When we come back, hospital officials know it was their mistake that killed young Ben Kolb. What will they tell his parents?
We wanted to know what happened. We wanted the truth.
But how would Ben's parents react to the full truth when a lesson from Ben continues?
So you don't want to miss more of what happened. You will also hear one side of the story from one other person who says they probably won't, they probably did or didn't. It all depends on who you decide. And we're also going to read your comments from this video that I uploaded. We're going to read your comments from all 33 people. Besides the long commercials, we're going to hear all these comments from y'all. Because I really have y'all to thank for this. And I really have people to thank, like Lolly, who says she loves my channel. I really appreciate that. And we're also going to hear the story from Tina Bell from last year who was telling her story. So yeah, we're gonna read your comments, and we're gonna hear more from Ben Kolb. So look for that on Wednesday. And before we leave you, here is our viral break. If you thought a man taking a shit in a bucket would make you cringe, just wait until you see what happens. This only happens 3 years ago. This man decides to take a crap on the subway with these two ladies. No joke. Take a look. To be believed, this guy decides to stay in his seat, and while the other people on one side decide to stay over there and do nothing. I would rather take that toilet away from him while he was taking a crap. Say, hey you! And he has shit all over his ass. But seriously though, common sense would tell you, if you gotta go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. Don't be in a portable toilet with you on a subway, even though you're homeless. I get it. That's Give Me a Break for this Monday going to Tuesday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday, with more on our unappreciated teachers as we continue our Teacher Appreciation Week. For everyone here at YouTube, have a good night.